Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to Watchcastage. Today we are looking at the Bill Gates watch, the watch worn by Bill Gates. You are probably thinking, holy crap, how did Bandrew get so much money? You'd be wrong, I don't have a bunch of money. This watch only costs between $45 and $75. That's right, Bill Gates only wears a $50 watch. What a crazy son of a gun. This is the Casio Duro MDV 106. Let's go ahead and jump into the review. Let's start by talking about the build quality of this watch, and as far as the weight, it comes in at 92 grams on the provided rubber strap. The case diameter is 44 millimeters, so it is quite large of a watch. The thickness comes in at 12.5 millimeters. The lug-to-lug distance is 48.5 millimeters. The lug width is 22 millimeters, so you'll need a 22 millimeter strap to replace this rubber strap with. The lugs are not drilled, so you will need to use a spring bar tool from the rear of the watch to replace the strap. The water resistance on this watch comes in at 200 meters. The crystal is going to be a mineral crystal, so it's not going to be the most scratch resistant. The entire case is made out of stainless steel. You have a screw-down crown at 3 o'clock, as well as a set of crown guards to avoid the crown from getting snagged on things. The watch does have a screw-on or screw-down case back to give you a little bit more of that water resistance. The crown is going to be unsigned. You shouldn't be expecting a signed crown at $50 anyways, but just wanted to point that out. Then as far as the bezel, it is 120 click unidirectional like a standard dive watch would be. The material is going to be aluminum, so it will get dings on it. And as far as the give, it has quite a bit of movement in between each of the clicks there, if that is of any concern to you. The version of the watch that I have here does come on a rubber strap, and the buckle on this strap is pretty plain. It does not have any kind of branding, any kind of logos. Very basic strap on this thing. And if you're at all interested, it does state that the movement in this is made in Japan, but the watch is cased in China, if that is of any concern to you. As you can see on the case back, you do have the Marlin, you have 200 meters water resistance or 20 bar, you have the movement name, stainless steel, and all that other information. Now let's talk about the finishing on this watch, and the majority of the case is going to be a high polish, except for the tops of the lugs, which does have a nice brushed finish to it. You can get a couple different color dials. Mine is a black dial, and it does have a sunburst effect to it. At 12 o'clock, you have Casio printed on the dial. At 6 o'clock, you have a Marlin printed on the dial, and beneath that, it says 200M. That means 200 meters water resistance. At the 3 o'clock, you have a white date wheel as well as a white border around the date window. As you look at the indices, you can see that they are applied, and each of the indices does have a bit of lume painted onto it. There is an arrowhead hour hand, there is a long pointed baton minute hand, and the second hand has a little arrow inside of it, and there is a touch of lume in that arrow, and the tip of the second hand is red. Then as far as the functionality of this watch, as I already mentioned, it does have a screw-down crown, so you'll get a little bit of added security there. If you pull it out to the second position, you will see that the second hand did stop, meaning this does have hacking, so you can get some accurate time setting. In the first position, you do have a quick set date function. Again, you do not want to set the quick date anywhere between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. And then if you are at the second position, it has the standard time setting functionality. Pretty straightforward, nothing too fancy there at all. As far as the accuracy of this watch, I found that over a month, my watch was gaining anywhere between 3 to 5 seconds, so really quite good, especially when you start comparing it to some analog watches. And if you're at all concerned about it with quartz watches, one of the big issues is the second hand does not hit the markers. Mine isn't terrible. It does hit some of the markers, but other markers it does not hit. You're going to have to try to find one that actually does hit the markers because that is difficult to find. Now let's go ahead and do a very quick Lume test. And here is what the watch looks like on my 7.5-inch wrist. You can see that it does have a tiny bit of overhang, but as a whole, it does work on my wrist. I think if you have a much smaller wrist, you may run into some issues. No signage or anything on the buckle, and I do have the strap wrapping all the way around to the other side. You have to use the retainer pretty well there. Otherwise, you're going to have this dangling bit that gets caught on everything. But now let's get to the more subjective review portion of this video, and we'll start with the pros. First thing for me is the accuracy, which, in fairness, is one of the main selling points of quartz. Only losing or gaining 3 seconds every single month is outstanding. If that's something that's important to you, quartz is a great route to go. Also, the alignment of everything seems to be pretty good, except for the seconds hand, meaning the bezel lines up with the chapter ring on the inside, as well as the indices. That's all lined up really great. And for the price, I think this is a much more expensive looking watch than what it is. I don't necessarily think the rubber strap is going to do it much in terms of looking like a fancy or nice watch, but if you throw this on a different strap, I think you could dress it up a little bit, make it look a little bit more expensive than it actually is. Then as far as the cons, I do find the mineral crystal to be a little bit of a bummer. Also, the sizing of this at 44 millimeters is quite large. I would love to see this in a 38, 39, or 40 millimeter. Something a little bit more conservative would be great to see. I would love to wear it because I think it is a really great looking watch. Just a little bit too chunky for my likings. Also, the second hand not hitting the markers is a huge pet peeve of mine. I know some folks are fine with it being a little bit off. I prefer to have it actually hitting the markers, but for $50 again, I can't really fault it for that. The strap is also quite comfortable. It works for me. My wrist does tend to get a little bit sweaty, but it looks a bit cheap, kind of cheapens the watch's look overall as well. And the bezel does have a bit of give to it in between the clicks, the 120 clicks. It has quite a bit of movement to it, so it's not going to be the most secure or instill any kind of confidence in the build quality there, if that's at all of a concern to you. I don't think that was a proper sentence at all. So in conclusion, I may have listed quite a few cons about this watch, but I think it's important to remember I only paid $47 for this thing, and because of that, I shouldn't really be complaining about it. I think that's always important to keep that perspective, and for the price, it performs extremely well, and I can see why somebody like Bill Gates has bought this and wears this regularly because it's affordable, it's accurate, it's easily replaceable, and it leaves a bunch of money available for him to buy up all the farmland in America and eventually control the entire population, which is what Bill Gates wants to do. That's my conspiracy theory, because why not turn a watch channel into a little bit of a conspiracy thing? Let's conclude with would I recommend it? If you're on a budget and you want a large and capable dive watch, then absolutely I would. I think you could easily grab some different straps for this and make it a much nicer looking watch. Even if you don't, for $50, it's going to perform well if you have a at least 7.5-inch wrist, or if you have a smaller wrist and like really large watches. But personally, I think if you have a wrist smaller than 7.5 inches, this watch would just be a bit too chunky for you, and you may be better off looking for something that's 40 millimeters or less. All right, I think that's going to wrap up for this video. That was the Casio Duro MDV106, around $47 to $75 depending on when you buy it. I think it's an absolute steal at that price. Throw in another $20 and get some NATO straps, and I think you're golden. There you go. If you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, hated it, thumbs down. Let me know what you thought of it. Is there something I can do to improve upon the videos? Is there something you think absolutely sucks or something that I'm completely missing? Let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you all in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching. Sorry about that. Bye.